Right. Just trying to sort out the links. Right, so as usual, the media always want a story to to come up with and start talking about, well, maybe we should have done a few other things. Try a new leader, get rid of the current leadership, because apparently being a leader for literally 2 minutes, I mean, he should have solved all the problems with the Labour Party by now. And what they are missing, and it's been going on for a long time now, this has nothing to do with Starmer, nothing to do with Corbyn. This goes back just only more recent times to 2009, I think it was, when this happened, a video about to see in a minute. And what people don't seem to understand is that from 2010, remember Labour had won election in 2005 with a reduced majority, but it still won it quite well. 2010 they lost. It was a hung parliament, and the Tories went in coalition with the Dems, and since then it's been pretty much on the fall in terms of getting some sort of support. Scotland has gone wayward, it's gone away from Labour completely. They had a lot of seats there, and many thanks to people like Gordon Brown. Now the SNP have total control. Wales is pretty much their last stronghold. England, and you can see from local elections, they've not done a pretty good job there. There have been some wins, but not enough. And then automatically look at Keir Starmer and say, well, he just fired Angela Rayner as the party chair. I wasn't too sure why she was the party chair to begin with. She's the deputy leader. And then people are going ballistic about it. It's like, oh, how can you fire her? Well, I think you've got to look back and see what Labour have been doing for the last 5-10 years alone. Because there's a delusion from their part saying that we had all this vote wrapped up. We could be winning the elections, left, right and centre. They keep failing. And as Dominic Cummings mentioned many times before, and he's talked about even post these local elections, post-Brexit, saying that there's no centre ground, because there isn't. Where is this centre ground I keep talking about? Because if there was a centre ground, the Liberal Democrats would have swept up. No, the Lib Dems didn't do particularly well. I predicted they will actually have a good night. They did not have a good night. Lib Dems. There was some wins, not enough. Labour, on the other hand, well, I live down here in southwest London, and we have a pretty good setup here in terms of the political part, the actual party activism, going door to door, and they're pretty upbeat around here, but around the rest of the country they're not. So we can be solid as we are here in London, and we just saw the mayorship race now, which wasn't the best result if you think about it. They said Khan was going to spank Bailey. But when I was reading some of the articles early this year and going towards the end of last year, the Tories weren't even helping Sean Bailey's campaign. He was on his own. I think that, look at the numbers, he did actually not a bad job. Not to mention all the other 55 billion candidates there were. Hundreds of candidates, so there were so many of them. And the Green Party did pretty well actually on the second preference if you look at the numbers. But again, it was always going to be between Khan and Bailey. So Khan's gone over 5 years. I'm not sure what Khan's ambitions are going after that. I predict he may well be his last run for mayorship. He may look at potential leadership of Labour. I'm not sure how old he is. I'm not sure if he's older than Sir Keir Starmer. He's not that old. But again, he may just move away from politics after then go into punditry or whatever it might be when you go on Sky News or BBC and talk politics. That being said, As usual, one half of the Labour Party did not like Starmer even before he got made into a leader. There were people quitting the party because of the fact that Jeremy Corbyn got spanked. And then when Starmer came in, other people were quitting the party because they didn't like the way Corbyn was being treated. I've said many times on my streams, for those who've seen me for like the last 5 years, my channel had about over 1,000 subs before YouTube decided to close it down. I've always said that Conservatives, in this case they're just Tories, not Conservatives, they're just liberal progressives, always circle the wagons when it comes to their party. Their party matters more than personality of candidates. Their party matters more than the potential damage one person could do. If you just circle wagons, will all be okay. And so, in the Labour's case, they've always had this tit for tat, back and forth between the more progressive left of the party. I would say they're probably just the left wing of the party, generally speaking. There's obviously a few more, but on the fringe, and centre left. There's no like right wing in the party. They keep making this stuff up about, oh, Tony Blair was a right winger. There's nothing right wing about Tony Blair. He was a liberal economics. That's not right wing. The man money was pumping into the NHS, of course, no doubt about it, and help when they were leading its privatisation. But you can't keep the NHS you can't keep the NHS as it is, because it needs reform, it needs changes, and nobody's talking about preventive medicine. No one's talking about reforming it at all in any shape or form, and we're stuck. So Labour keep banging about, well, we're not helping people in the NHS. Well, people looking outside the NHS are saying, well, we're in the lockdown at the moment under the pandemic. The NHS pays the least of our concerns. It's a problem, but it's the least of our concerns. We don't have to cut back. Wait till see what happens when the prices go up. There's a big problem there, and people are forgetting that there will be knock-on effects from these lockdowns and the damage to the economy, which will fall on the Tories' on their shoulders, and Labour have opportunity to do something about that. And if you want to take advantage of it, go for it. You should do. He's not actually being, unprofessional, scheming against those in power because they're having a few problems here. Starmer was stuck. Either he goes in and says, well, I'm going to say that the Tories have done a really bad job of the pandemic and we could have done a better job. Well, that's a stupid statement to make in the first place, and two, you're in the minority right now in opposition. You can't do much apart from oppose few measures. What if Starmer opposed lockdowns? What if Starmer decided to say that I'm going to get the party to now go about and say, we're not going to lock down. If you go out and wear masks, you'll be fine. That's about it. Well, all of a sudden, all these people that didn't vote for Labour would have voted for them in the local elections. I highly doubt it. So, that's the opening part of the stream. So what's already going on? Well, people might remember this. Now, the quality of this video is pretty poor. Bear in mind, YouTube back then was obviously going at 360p, not even at high definition. So the audio is fine, but the actual video quality itself is poor. This is the Sky's report on the bigoted comment that Gordon Brown made. Because for the first time, even though it was a stupid thing that Gordon Brown said, but it should never have cost him an election, of course. Because it didn't actually cost him an election, but didn't help, obviously. That was the first time people saw a politician naked in front of the voters. Obviously not in the literal sense. That you're saying one thing to their face, you can see they're smirking, smiling, and you go off and make that comment. His mic was not turned off. Gordon Brown was more angry that they put him in front of her because it made him look bad. Well, that adds to the problem as well. So let's have a listen to this first.
Hello. How are you doing?
It was just an ordinary day on the Labour campaign trail. The Prime Minister out and about meeting real people, including one voter who was invited to put her complaints directly to Gordon Brown.
You're a very good woman. You've served the community all the life.
I have. I've worked for the Rochdale Council for 30 years.
You deserve...
And I work with children and handicapped children.
Well, I think working with children is so important, isn't it? So important. Have you been at some of the children's centres?
What I can't understand is why am I still being taxed at 66-year-old because my husband's died and I have some of his pension tagged onto my pension now?
Well, we're raising the threshold at which people start paying tax as pensioners. But yes, if you've got an occupational pension, you may have to pay.
Been there for 30 years, works with handicapped children. She mentioned her husband had died, has got this problem with his pension has to deal with. Why do I play this clip? Because the people today in the Labour Party that I know of, not personally, but I've seen on and off social media, would have said the exact same thing as Gordon Brown said of this one. And today they're thinking, oh my God, why do we keep losing elections? I wonder why we keep losing elections. This was back in what, 2009? And you're still using the same mindset, the same mentality against a group of people who, because they talk differently, they speak a certain way, they have a different culture, different way of life to you, they're still old-fashioned, still old school, which, by the way, is for the majority of this country, whether you like it or not. Yes, we're still socially conservative in this country. I'd say probably economically liberal. The family matters, the lives of our children matter, their education matters. Building a home, starting a family, these things still matter to a lot of people. Still. It matters to people in some of the communities here in London, where we've got a Labour stronghold. You bring in your progressivism, you bring identity politics, you bring your woke BS. All you're doing is putting that in front to a point where the people who are voters only see that in front of them. Whatever you're saying to them in terms of policies, so even if Keir Starmer said, like a fantastic set of policies put forward by Sir Keir Starmer, right, that would destroy the Tories, most people still not vote for him because all the other things you've seen before, including this, are still there in front.
Some tax, but you may be eligible for the pension credit as well. You should check.
No, I'm not. I've checked and checked and they said no, they can't do it.
Well, you should look at it again just to be sure.
How are you going to get us out of all this debt, Gordon?
Quite deficit reduction.
All this debt, Gordon. How are you going? And they said no, they can't do it.
Well, you should look at it again just to be sure.
You don't answer by saying, so you should have said to her, tell me and I'll look at it for you personally. That would have been the connection between a candidate and the voter. Just look at it again, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
How are you going to get us out of all this debt, Gordon?
Quite a deficit reduction plan, cut the debt by half over the next 4 years. We've got the plans.
Look at all the media. He doesn't slip up it, that's why Gordon Brown's actually pretty good in front of the camera, but when it came off camera, bloody hell.
Been set out to do it. Look, I was a person who came in and...
Three main things, what I was drummed in when I was a child with mine, was education, health service, and looking after people who are vulnerable.
And that's what
my life...
But there's too many people now who aren't vulnerable, but they can claim, and people who are vulnerable can't get claimed.
A local resident, Mrs Duffy, echoed the concerns of many about the numbers arriving in the UK from overseas.
It's,
6 months.
You can't say anything about the immigrants because you're saying that but all these Eastern Europeans what are coming in, where are they flocking from?
1 million people come from Europe, but 1 million people, British people, have gone into Europe. You do know there's a lot of British people staying in Europe as well. Look, come back to what your initial principles, helping people. That's what we're in the business of doing. A decent health service, that's really important, and education. Now, these are the things that we have tried to do. We're going to maintain the schools so that we can make sure that people have that chance to get on. We're going to maintain the health service so that
you... And what's he going to do about students who are coming in now? All this that you've had to pay, you scrap that, Gordon.
Which one?
To help students go on to university.
Or tuition fees?
Yes.
Yeah, but we've got 40...
I'm thinking about my grandchildren.
I know, but...
What will they have to pay to get into university?
You've got 40% of young people now going to university, haven't you?
More than ever.
More than ever. So you've got to have some balance. If you get a degree and you earn twice as much after you get the degree, then you've got to pay something back as a contribution.
The issue here was not the tuition fees business, it was actually the immigrant comment.
But there are grants for your grandchildren.
And what Gordon Brown says, nothing wrong with that at all. We are getting people who are not exactly privileged going to university. It's got to be paid for somehow.
There are grants, more grants than ever before. You know, more young people are going to university than ever before. And for the first year, the majority of people going to university are women. So there's big opportunities for women.
Identity politics, even he got involved in that.
And so education, health, and helping people. That's what I'm about. That's what I'm about.
Well,
you've had the chance.
And I hope you keep it up.
It's been very good to meet you.
Yes,
It's been very good to meet you.
Yeah.
And you're wearing the right colour today.
It looked as if the two had parted on good terms, but Mr Brown was still wearing the microphone that Labour had requested Sky News attached to his lapel.
Oh my God. Oh dear.
That was a disaster. Well, just... Okay. Should never have put me with that woman. Whose idea was that?
I don't know, I can see.
It was Sue, I think. It was just ridiculous.
I'm not sure they'll go with that one.
They will go with it.
What did she say?
Oh, everything. She's just a sort of bigoted woman that said she used to be Labour. I mean, it's ridiculous. They will go with it. Oh, everything.
Her face says it all.
Said she used to be Labour.
Well, what do you think about that, Mrs. Duffy? Disgusted.
Now, you said to me before that you were a Labour supporter. I mean,
Yes.
what's this done to that? What's that?
Well,
what's that-
I don't think I'll vote. I don't think I'll vote now. It's a postal vote and I don't have to send it in. He's just absolutely... Well, he's shut me down.
Does she look like somebody's going to vote for the Tories? No. No, even if the Tories said we're clamping down, you've seen the Tories' policy on the border at the moment. It's dreadful. They don't know what to do with the people coming in from France. She will not vote for the Tories. She might consider voting for them. She will probably never think for 1 second to vote for them. "30 years. You're helping disabled people. And that's the way you look at on a voter? That stuck with people. It isn't just her, it's all these other voters looking at that and thinking, okay, it's been what, 12 years since this happened? That's one moment. And people always think over the years, we'll give them another chance, give them another chance, give them another chance. You've looked down on these people, and eventually it kicks in. All these people never voted Tory, never for 1 second ever voting for Tory ever. All did in 2019. And still you use the exact same language towards them. All they do.
Completely.
What was your opinion?
Very upsetting, that.
Because I spoke to you immediately after the exchange, and you seemed happy with the answers that you'd given me.
What did I say to be bigoted there? What was bigoted in that, what I said? I just asked about national debt.
When his own words were replayed, Mr Brown clearly realised the gravity of the situation.
Of course she's allowed to express her view, and I was saying that. The problem was that I was dealing with a question that she raised about immigration, and I wasn't given a chance to answer it because we had a whole melee of press around her. But of course I apologise if I've ever said anything that has been offensive, and I would never put myself in a position where I would want to say anything like that about a woman I met. It was a question about immigration that really I think was annoying. No, I'm blaming myself, and I blame myself.
Yeah, but you see them a chance to answer it. You did. She brought it up. There you go. The guy who's supposed to be highly respected in the Labour Party and seen as a guy who would trounce the Tories.
For what is done.
But given the media attention, it was almost inevitable that he'd have to deliver that apology in person. There are good days and there are bad days during every election, but it is rare indeed that a party leader would break away from campaigning, come to the home of just one voter and issue what must surely be a grovelling apology. The two spoke for close to an hour.
I've just been talking to Gillian. I'm mortified by what's happened. I've given her my sincere apologies. I misunderstood what she said, and she has accepted that there was a misunderstanding, and she's accepted my apology. If you like, I'm a penitent sinner. Sometimes you say things that you don't mean to say, sometimes you say things by mistake, and sometimes when you say things, you want to correct it very quickly. So I wanted to come here and...
Fair play, you went to correct it, but the trouble is, you said it. It wasn't about her. Everybody heard that comment. As I said, it's one of many examples of the way some of these Labour people look at the English white working class people. And you're saying, oh, the Tories and the UKIP are pandering to these people. They're actually listening to these people. You're not. Vote for us because Tories are bad. Yeah, okay, fine. But you'll give me a bit more than that. So that was him there. And this is what the Gillian Duffy herself said on Newsnight about the European, the Leave and the... I think it's the same person. Yeah, it must be. Yeah, it is the same person.
Well, I think the European Union has just got far too large for itself. The money, what's being wasted over and over every year, there's billions, well, it's not millions, it's probably trillions now. We're giving all the time. We always put our money in, but we never seem to get anything back to help us. 3 people have said to me, did you get that leaflet, Gillian? I said, yes. I said, I don't think I've read it. Well, I said, I tried to read it and I thought, I can't be by reading this. She says, I've sent it back. And I says, what do you mean? She says, I've put a stamp on it and just put it, David Cameron, 10 Downing Street. Utter rubbish. And I says, honestly? She says, yeah. And I'd read in the paper that other people had sent it back. Why was he allowed to spend 9 million on a leaflet? I don't think it will change our life at all. George Osborne even said that. He said the rich will still be rich, you know, whether we come out or we stay in. So that means we are going to still be the same anyhow then, aren't we? We'll still be the same. But I'm frightened of us. We're losing our identity as well. You know, our English, that's what I'm frightened of, and all. We'll never get England back to how it was. But I love being English and I don't want to be a European.
I've got the best.
Sorry, someone off. What she was trying to say from that is that, or the point of all these videos I've shown you, is that for this whole time you took these people vote for granted. Then you made that stupid comment, obviously apologised for it, fair play to Gordon Brown, but you've said it already. Everything else lined up right up to Brexit. So she's now gone through that whole thing of bigoted comment. And I bring on Newsnight. You know what people think of Brexit is. So it's no wonder they don't want to vote for Labour anymore. Not all of them, obviously, but for a strong, increasing majority of them. You can see election results there. English councils. Tories are doing pretty well. And so, as usual, post Keir Starmer, as if he's resigned, but he hasn't. He's still leader. Here comes the people who come in and say, well, we've got to do a little bit more with, soul searching. This is the key words now we're hearing. So this is actually just after Andrina, I think maybe just after this happened, or maybe before, maybe he doesn't even know. Andrina was sacked as the party chair. It's the same Angela Rayner, which I never understand from the Labour activists and Labour supporters out there. The same Angela Rayner that said once and recorded the clip, which they showed her. This is actually, I think it's post-election we had. It was actually probably last year. Which said, why can't we help people in this country instead of relying on people from outside the UK? Along those lines, I'm paraphrasing. Called bigoted for it by the same usual suspects. Attacked for it by people in the Labour Party. Oh, she's a Tory in disguise and all this other nonsense. Now she's been sacked as party chair. The same idiots are coming out and saying, oh my god, Sir Keir Starmer is disgusting what he's done. He's trying to blame other people for the losses. You can't have it both ways. And Angela Rayner was spot on when she said that. Yes, we should be concentrating people in this country. We have all these young boys, for example, failing at school, ending up on street corners, with no prospects, We've got a crisis of housing shortage in this country. I've spoken about many times before. Housing crisis. We've got lack of skilled trades, electricians, builders, and plumbers. We're relying on Europe heavily on this. It makes sense to concentrate on people here. It's not bigoted or racist to do that. Any country would do that. This is why Poland don't lend out their young Polish people out anymore as they used to, as often as they did, because they need them there. Okay, it's not racist to do that. There are all these issues we have, all these problems which are linked together, and every time we try to raise the issue of immigration, the same usual talking points come out, the same rebuke, the same response. Enough already, let's have a proper debate about it. No one really has an issue of immigration. No one really has an issue of immigrants coming in. What they're saying is, well, if we have a housing crisis, why is the border open? That's not bigoted. That's common sense. A very good question to ask. Where are you going to put all these people? They're just going to end up on the streets probably at some point. There was one story, The Guardian even covered as The Guardian. A woman in Portugal left Portugal because no prospects there. She came to the UK, applied, I think maybe it was a work visa, with indefinitely to remain. I can't remember what the status was for her, but she came in, she should be able to obviously being part of the EU. She came into this country, she lost her job, and she ended up going to sex work, prostitution. So all these stories just add up, saying why is a woman coming to the UK ending up on the streets and ending up having to do sex work, or being, whatever you want to call it, prostitution? What happened in her own country? What's going on in Europe? I thought Europe was supposed to be this great experiment, this great project. Yes, you can leave and go to other countries. But this woman left one country that was a member of the European Union to go to another country of the European Union and end up on the streets and up going to prostitution. I've always said it before. The EU is just a human trafficking operation. Proven time and time again what happens in Eastern Europe, all the way here to the UK. It's disgusting the way human beings have been taken advantage of. It's disgusting the way these people are put on the border in France, over in on the edge of France near the Channel in Calais, and exploited with these smugglers. And we're not willing to take a hard stance on it. It's not taking a hard stance on those people trying to get a better life. It's taking a hard stance on the European Union for doing jack you know what about the problem. Just keep going. Just keep going. Yes, I thought European Union was paradise, apparently. I thought Germany and France were wonderful countries. I thought Spain was quite good at this time of year as well, along with Italy. But no one wants to go there. They all want to come here. And we're the racists. They think voters are stupid. They pick these things up. So Labour have got obviously their own set of problems right now, and Keir Starmer not going anywhere. It would be stupid for him to go away. He's been in power for less than about a year now, probably. More than that, maybe a little bit more. It's been 17 months since the election result back in 2019 when they got spanked. He's not going to fix these problems. The image of Labour has been damaged over the last 10, 15 years. The same faces seem to come back and say, oh, we can do something for Labour, we can rescue them, let's go back to our way we were doing things back in the late 90s, or mid-90s to late 90s, early 2000s, of course we went to Iraq War after that. The world has changed significantly then. Brexit is done. We are now post-Brexit, and we're still hearing people talking about a second referendum. I still hear it. Labour, shut up about the second referendum. Labour, stop talking about Brexiteers. Just stop. You lost. It's over. Get on with it. Here's Andy Burnham appearing after these results. By the way, less than a third of voters voted in this actual mayor election race. Less than a third. About 42% vote in the London mayor race. We talk about democracy all the time. We've got less people voting than the more people who are not voting. Think about that.
Job in the world, in the best city region in the world, and I'm just so grateful to all of those
Wait a minute, I heard Sadiq Khan said the best city was London, the best area was London. Ugh, the pandering, the pandering.
People who went out and put their trust in me. It means a lot. It's quite humbling, actually, Sophie, to be honest. It's a brilliant result. I'm so grateful to everybody. And we are on with something here. You know, we are actually levelling up this country. We are building the new Greater Manchester. And from here, we are going to do some radical changes to our transport system. The Greater Manchester Public...
How are you levelling up? So the money must be coming from Westminster, of course. Which is good.
...have given me a big mandate to bring our buses back under public...
As I said, they're 32.9%.
...control for the first time in 35 years, and I'll be getting on with that job come Monday morning.
Getting on with the job on the buses, best job in the world, but you'll forgive me for labouring the point a little bit. Can you rule out running for the leadership of the Labour Party?
I've been elected as Mayor of Greater Manchester, as I say.
This is why I can't stand the media. And this is why none of you can stand the media. Has Sir Keir Starmer resigned or something? I don't know, maybe he has. I've not seen anything. No, he hasn't resigned. He has been ousted. Even though they're planning to, but just so people know, not rumour, hearing it from me. Some things I heard online, WhatsApp groups, background chatter. Yes, they're planning a move. They won't succeed, of course, in this case. But they're secretly trying to do something behind the scenes. Yes, they are. The guy's been in there for less than, not even a year. Well, probably just barely a year. Good grief. Forgive me for asking a question about leadership. I've just been elected Mayor of Manchester. Greater Manchester. Why do I care about the leadership of the Labour Party when we've got a leader already? Good Lord.
That is where my focus is. I left Westminster politics. I'm not an MP. You have to be an MP to stand for the leader of the Labour Party, and I'm not.
Yeah, I can see the Greater Manchester mayor race was a close call. You know, because Tories are so loved in Manchester and Liverpool. This, by the way, they say in Liverpool, the sleaze and corruption of Labour. Oh yes, plenty of it. Hopefully, there's nothing here and in this area down in southwest London. They spanked the Tories in that seat, yes, because apparently of all the sleaze and corruption that we heard from Boris Johnson, his curtains, what you choose to have, he still won. If this guy ended up being very sleazy, there was backdoor deals, he was enriching himself through his side projects, whatever it might be, right? Similar to the crook that was the former Liverpool mayor. Yes, okay, he's gone, but you take that rosette off his blazer and put it onto, I don't know, Binface? Count Binface, whatever his name is, the guy around the London mayorship race, he would win. In Greater Manchester. Nicola Sturgeon, all that sleaze in Scotland. Plenty of it. She can't even run her own record. She dominated, the SNP have dominated Scotland. What does that tell you?
Where the rules have changed. So no, my focus is here, Sophie, and you know, in the distant future, you know, if the party were ever to kind of feel that it needed me, well, you know, I'm here, and they should get in touch. But no, I'm here, and I want to support Labour nationally by saying, look at what's happening here. Where there is devolution, where there is strong, authentic, connected representation, people are buying into it, and the council results here reflect that. So the Labour Party's been lukewarm about devolution up to this point, and it needs to change very significantly and get right behind it and rebuild from the bottom up, and that will be my advice to the leader, but also to the whole of the party.
There's only one problem with your statement there. You are right. Labour will do better at this level, but core Labour don't believe in that. They believe at a national complete control level. They don't want to leave it to you in Manchester, or leave it to you in Liverpool, leave you to it in Newcastle, or leave you to it in Nottingham and Derby, leave it to you in Bristol and in all the way over in areas like Kent, down to Bournemouth, Brighton and so on. They want to nationalise the entire country, complete control of the government. You're not part of that. Yes, you talk about nationalising the transport in Greater Manchester, which, by the way, here in London, it's not a great service. I'm not saying the private system have done better, obviously not. We've got to try to look at things a bit differently and try and work out how we can improve bus and rail and underground in London. But that being said, that's not that's the problem we have. It's all good saying, yes, we want to give better control to local areas, and that's how it should be. I'm not living in Manchester for me to use my power, my vote, and the amount of money I pay into taxes to control what you guys do over there. That shouldn't be the case at all. You guys do what you need to do. We can always try and help each other out. But there's not enough in Labour that believe that, and he is correct when he says it, but that's not the part of the core Labour Party.
If in the distant future Labour needs you, they should get in touch. Sounds a little bit like you're leaving the door slightly ajar.
No pushback on what you just said. Just let's talk about leadership again.
Well, I say I've tried twice to be the leader, and it's never worked. So
he's failed twice. Oh my word! This is the idiocy of the voter, and we've all been there. Okay, including me, everyone. When I say idiocy, I'm not trying to put people down. I'm saying we've all been there. You have one leadership race, and then this guy is running along with Yvette Cooper, obviously Jeremy Corbyn, who obviously won. I forget, Lisa Nandy, I think, was also around that point. I think it was 4 of them. Or so I came down to 4 of them. And Corbyn spanked them all, right? They looked at this guy, they looked at Yvette Cooper as the Blairites, the old Labour, the newer Labour wing. The association had them. Doesn't mean they're actually Blairites, but they had association with them. Jeremy Corbyn was going to be his new face. Jeremy Corbyn comes in, he wins, he has a leadership challenge again, was there a challenge? Yeah, there was a second challenge, wasn't there? There was. I think after the election, before election 2017, after the referendum vote, it might be. I can't remember who it was. But that happened. A mushy centrist got spanked again by Jeremy Corbyn. Loses 2 general elections. Ruins the Brexit position, and then expects people to just turn around and vote for next time round, which of course, like I've already touched on before, it's not going to happen anytime soon. The same people that like Jeremy Corbyn or kind of had some sort of, like towards him, hate Keir Starmer, this guy's name mentioned, oh, you know what, I might actually vote for this guy if he runs. You see the problem? You go around full circle on these things. Will this guy have been Johnson in 2019? I don't think so. Don't think anyone would be in Johnson. Johnson outsmarted all of you. He's a buffoon. Partly because Dominic Cummings, of course, running his campaign, which knew exactly what to do and what to say at the right time. That's been Labour's issue all the time. The party's always had a split. It's now we can see it clearly open what's happening. And there are too many people who are not sitting around saying, well, let's have a meeting with Sir Keir Starmer and try and address these issues. They already are trying to work behind the scenes to try and get rid of him.
I'm not under any illusions, if you like, that it's never worked for me in the past. I feel I'm in the best job in the world, and we've got a massive job ahead of us. But I'm here to help the Labour Party if they need it. But they need to change. Let's be really clear about this. It can't be just sort of cosmetic changes that come out of this. There has to be substantial change in the way the Labour Party is working. They have lost an emotional connection with parts of the country that is going to take a lot of work to get back. So I think the party has to do a lot of soul searching about these results and understand why we've done well in places like Wales, places like Greater Manchester, and it really needs to then buy into English devolution and build from the bottom up. That's what these results are telling them.
I'm really interested in your diagnosis for Labour going forward, because there have been these spotlights of light for Labour. You, of course, winning in the first round, increasing your vote share in Greater Manchester, in Wales, as you mentioned too, Labour managing to get that effective working majority, really, in the Welsh Parliament, and yet doing so devastatingly badly in other areas of England. What do you think Labour needs to do now to change?
Well, I think if you look at those results and you try and understand them, the pattern is where there is devolution, a strong, locally driven operation, people are buying into it more. So here, Liverpool City region, you've just heard from the west of England where they're buying into it now and have elected a Labour mayor. Wales, there was a reward for the Labour Party there. Where they haven't got it in the same way in parts of the northeast, well, there's a greater sense of alienation there from the party. So that's the lesson I would say. You know, there is no route to a general election victory that is not done through building from the ground upwards, winning back the trust of people that's been lost and changing fundamentally the way we go about things. I've said it many times, Labour is too London-centric, and it's still the case. And I don't know how many times I have to say it to them until they change, but now they must change.
It's interesting you're saying there about the London-centricness of the Labour Party. It was quite a similar diagnosis from Colin Mahmood, who said a London-based bourgeoisie with the support of brigades of woke social media warriors has effectively captured the party. Do you agree with that assessment?
I'm not sure I'd quite put it in those terms, but it's why I left. You know, in the end, I just didn't feel as though it was my world and that I could do what I wanted to do.
You're not answering the question because you know Colin Mahmood was absolutely spot on.
I felt I could be truly myself in Westminster politics, but I think people do see the real me in this job, and I feel invigorated by it. I'm passionate about it. You know, who wouldn't be? Being the mayor of a city region like the place that I'm talking to you from now, it's an amazing place, you know, with just brilliant people, and it's got so much potential. It's been held back, actually, by Westminster, and that angers me. I feel it's Westminster that's caused the north-south divide, and it annoys me that we always have a debate about politics in this country.
When you say Westminster,
with Westminster as only showing power. Well, actually, it's actually the problem. It's the problem.
When you say Westminster, do you include Labour in that diagnosis?
Yeah, the whole of it, yeah, the way the whole thing works. And of course I do. It just doesn't work for people in the way that a more devolved approach really does work and connects with people. And you can see that in these results. So, yeah, I believe...
Yeah, that's nothing praising Manchester 24/7. Yeah, granted, that might be the case, but a lot of money is actually down here in London, as you know. The rich pay a lot of the money and taxes and revenues, but we also have other big issues that are happening in this country which Labour have decided to completely ignore, especially the councils, housing being one of them, level of crime, how clean the streets are. There's all these issues that come up which, instead of thinking that because the Tories are worse than you, they'll vote for you and vice versa, people kind of turn around and say, you know, I kind of had enough. And you've seen the turnout of some of these local election results, so you find that Labour, in some cases, were let down. If you take the Hartlepool by-election result, which is obviously an MP, not a council seat, there's this logic that's been used by people in the Labour Party. Well, we had it in 2019, but we lost it in 21 because of Starmer. They seem to forget there was this chunk of support that was coming in from, for example, let me just get this on the screen, sorry, it's not on the video. There was a, there we go. There was a chunk of support for the Brexit Party, which ended up leaving, obviously the Reform Party, changed the name from Brexit Party to Reform UK, and they didn't do particularly well, as expected. And that vote clearly was there to the people who, you know, they kind of want, Brexit to happen. At the same time, you put a candidate forward in that location who was against Brexit, won the second referendum, anything that looks like, to voters especially. So it's not just a case of, as Andy Burnham was saying, devolution. That might apply to the mayorship races, not apply to some council races, but doesn't apply at national level. That's all. At the same time, you talk about devolution, yes, okay, fine, you talk about it. All these people still talking about institutional racism, wokeism, and whatever you want to call it. People need a sense of belonging. There are people out there who can't afford to they can barely afford to put food on the table. All they're doing is paying bills and going to bed. Which, by the way, a lot of us in London do. That's all we do. We pay bills and go to bed. Eat something, obviously, but that's about it. So, when people talk about culture, the culture war, and people talk about the family, the children's education, yeah, they all matter, but no one's talking about this in a way that they should be talking about it. Nobody can afford to have kids now. Nobody wants to raise kids in this environment. Nobody wants to raise kids in the awful education system that we have, because it is awful. Complete takeover by the government. There's a lot of problems, and not one of them wants to address it. I was told the Labour Party here in South West London, get your backsides in gear and start talking about issues of housing. Young people, and this is the most important point of all of it. Labour have taken the young vote for granted, and they always assume the young people are going to vote for them. Well, they don't seem to realise that if you're 21 years of age and you vote Labour one election, okay, next election is in 5 years. You're getting 26. Your life has changed quite a bit since then. It's a short time, but it would have changed quite a bit. You've gone obviously maybe potentially from a university or college, and you got yourself a job. You're living in London, you don't particularly like it, but you get by, and you're living in the Labour district, you live on the Labour council, maybe a Labour MP. Things aren't going too well for you. You can quickly change your mind. Doesn't mean you're going to vote for Tories or Lib Dem or any other party, but you can quickly change. 5 years after that, you get to age 31, you're in your 30s now. Yes, life changes quickly for these young people. If you want to address the young people's concerns, find out for them, or just ask them a simple question. Do you want to be able to afford your own home? Live in a good community, nice community? Yeah, I kind of do. Okay, look what the Tories are doing to this country. Look at them converting all these, looking for housing spaces by converting office apartments. By the way, Labour councils are complicit in this. And just building tower blocks which are an absolute eyesore and shoving as many people as you can there. Because in the end, they know deep down, unless someone actually tries to spell out an actual, not policy, but the way they vision, or the way they see the country 20, 30 years from now, how they want to see the country to look like. As long as you've got a roof over your head, that's enough. Because there's only one or the other alternative. It now comes down to what kind of tax rates you want, how much money you should pay into the NHS, whether you can afford to go out or not. That's it. That's all we're debating about. Labour, if you want to win, you win on culture, and you'll absolutely trounce the Tories. You'll march into number 10 in 2024. But you don't want to do it. I mean, if you look at that picture of Starmer and Rayner taking a knee, how that didn't look authentic at all. You knew that was pandering. And I said on my previous stream election result night, or yesterday it was, a day later from when elections happened, I said that people who see this always look at their own situation, regardless of the situation of taxes, how much they're paying, the pension, the crime in their community, and so forth. If you're doing all this stuff, so a police officer, their family, or you're friends with them, or you're related to one of them, but related to a police officer, you're part of a community that respects law and order and all that, and you have that happening, taking a knee, because they want to abolish the police, you've already lost their vote. You're not going to get their vote. I was listening to Sadiq Khan's speech again. Again, he knew he can say whatever he wants because he won. He talked about doing everything for Londoners and how great the city was. Same thing we heard from Andy Burham. Nothing about tackling crime. You've got teenagers getting stabbed for crying out loud. You've got teenagers who got no prospect. Young boys got no prospects. By telling the truth, as a politician, because Sadiq Khan, in all fairness, is actually a master politician. He knows how to work the media, he knows what speeches to make, he knows how to get people's votes. He is a top expert on that area. I'll give him that. It's not just him. You need people to be able to advocate not just policy, but tell people how they want to see this country. You heard Gordon Brown in that clip when he spoke of, yes, you want the community, to the community, because all the woman's been taking care of disadvantaged children for that long. You had what was it? Education for children. He talked about, make sure she's talking about her grandchildren. That woman who you call bigoted. These are the things which, for some reason, nobody talks about now. That was back in 2009. It's not being talked about today. I have no idea why, but it's not being talked about. Let me just show you quickly. Sorry, I was going to show this earlier on, but it's the election result in the London mayorship race, because obviously that happened just very recently. Not bad from Sean Bailey, I've got to say, because he didn't have a campaign team. They just stabbed him in the back. They're happy to see Khan win, because I think this will be, he'll only serve a second term. He won't serve another one after that. Look at the turnout, 42.2%. Okay, we've got a pandemic, but you can postal vote. Excuse me, you got a postal vote, and that didn't happen. As often. They were literally relying on that, Labour. I can tell you that now. They were really worried that, because people weren't going to go out there and vote. That's often partly because of the pandemic, but obviously people weren't interested. Those turnout numbers are just awful. Really are. And Labour's problem is summed up of this, actually. Let me see if I can grab this image. A screenshot, actually, of I don't have it here, actually. That's a shame. Oh, I do actually, but I actually have to. Oh, it's not a GIF image. It's not a JPEG image. If I open up photos, will it come through? There we go. So, Paul Embry and Brennan Chilton are the two Labour lefties. They're actually left wing. The only ones who are talking sense in the Labour Party today. Paul Embry and Brennan Chilton. Brexiteers as well. The only two. Labour, he tweets out, Labour was crushed in 2019 when the radical left was in charge. It was crushed tonight when the liberal left was in charge. To hear each side blame the other is utterly tiresome. Both are responsible for the dire predicament in which the party finds itself, which is pretty much what I've explained now, but I'm talking more about the culture issue and the way they look down on people when the case of immigration came up, going back to 2009 even till today. Right? That's 12 years I'm covering, and we don't know what's happened pre that, but 12 years is quite a bit of time. Grace Blakely says in response, quote, I, on the other hand, will lead Labour to an emphatic victory on a policy platform of more flags and bombs. Two Labour people going at it. Paul Embry is clearly in the right here. Grace and others, all respect to them. I'm not saying they have a say in this matter. They're not saying anything popular at all that will actually win votes. But you got to stop looking at it in perspective that when somebody talks about a sense of belonging, they're not talking about just flag waving. In this country, all we're doing, as I explained just about 10 minutes ago, that all we're doing is paying taxes and going to bed. I think you find people want a bit more than that. And talking about international socialism, talking about the Green New Deal, talking about identity politics, talking about institutional racism, does not actually draw any support from any of the red wall areas that you talk about, because it doesn't do anything for them. In fact, you said to these people, Well, thank you for the vote for the last 30 years, but by the way, we do think you're racist as well. We do think you're privileged, because apparently all these black MPs under Labour, all the Asian MPs, all the Middle Eastern ones, all the Southeast Asian MPs, wherever they are, wherever they're from, right, in the Labour Party, are less privileged than a white working class man or woman who hasn't got a job and is relying on benefits. Whilst these underprivileged MPs earn tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds in taxpayers' money. Because apparently, of course, Diane Abbott, as you know, who believes in institutional racism, she's more than happy to pick up a paycheck from the racists. And they think people don't see through that. So it's not just one or two things that happened in the last 10 years. It's a million things that have happened in the last 10 years alone. So many events have happened. So many statements have been made. And I went far as back as Gordon Brown because that's more recent. But that has a knock-on effect. For the first time a politician appeared naked in front of everybody. When Boris Johnson went around campaigning in 2019, being the buffoon he was, you've seen some of the times where, you know, you ran over a kid when he had holding a rugby ball, didn't think much about it. Okay, the kid laughed about it afterwards, but still, right? A complete disaster if that ever happened. The guy kept tripping up, and you still couldn't beat him. You couldn't beat Theresa May, for crying out loud. Because when you lose an election like they did, when your guy loses, guy or gal that you have, you can't accept that it was actually down to that person. There was a reason why they lost. There had to be some outside factor. It had to be some influence from another country. Brexit happened because of the Russians, apparently. Because apparently all you people have been waiting in the basements, waiting for the Russians to manipulate your idea about the European Union, even though you held that opinion for about 30 years of your life. Up to 30 years, I should say. Labour's problems, as I said, start of the stream and the title of the stream, goes back a long, long time. And people in the Tory party have been far more decisive than Labour. Just now, when Nicola Sturgeon claimed that we must have a second referendum for Scotland for independence, Boris Johnson turned around and said, "You ain't going to have it. You have no right to have it, in fact. None." Labour have pandered, they've gone back and forth, middle up, not sure what to do. This sums up Labour, that screenshot. Not putting Grace down, not putting Paul at the top of the mantle saying he's the best thing since sliced bread, but when somebody's correct, you just move on with it and get on with it and try and make the case again to the party. Keir Starmer beat the other candidates in the last leadership fight. He's been in power for a short time. Give him a chance, because this will kick up the backside for Labour. The results in Labour, the local elections, may have been caused by Starmer, caused post-Corbyn or during Corbyn's era, and whatever. It goes back a long way. This has been a long time coming for Labour to get hit back up the backside, the same way the Tories were during the 90s. Look where the Tories are now. You thought, my God, the Tories are never going back. They're so old school, old fashioned. They changed their ways, changed the structure, brought in some fresh faces, brought some new ideas in. They've been in power since 2010. Albeit with a coalition in 2010. They took out the Lib Dems completely. Lib Dems are completely irrelevant at the moment. Irrelevant to a point where you don't really see them doing anything. But they may come back, you never know. From my opinion, I think they're finished as a party because they're pretty much embedded within the Tory party today. 2015, 2017, 2019, all victories. Brexit backfired on Labour. When you sent Emily Thornberry into Question Time to say, you know what, this is what you got to say when they asked a question on Brexit. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to, bring up a deal with the EU. Yes, we've got a great deal, great ideas, and we're going to bring it forward. We're then going to put it to the to the British people to vote on it, and we're going to campaign against it. Yeah. I don't know what idiot came up with that idea, whether it was Keir Starmer himself. Should have been fired on the spot. And I don't know why Emily Foreman decided to take that with her into that question. The first thing she should have said was, I'm not saying that. But she's not very sharp. People say she is. I don't think she was very sharp, because that's a moment that really looked bad on her. And for anyone to say, well, it was all the Brexiteer wing of Labour that screwed things up, and it was the people like Keir Starmer and others. Well, who was running the party back then? Corbyn was. Now look what happened. Giving the Tories ultimate power. They're not going anywhere anytime soon unless there's a huge scandal unfolds. Talk about sleaze. There was plenty of sleaze in Liverpool. Sturgeon has her own sleaze in her own party. Not to mention all the screw-ups in the NHS and so on. So many scandals happening in Scotland that people don't even know about. I don't know how the Scottish people are voting for these people. But then again, how do these people vote for Tories? How did all those Liverpool voters vote for Labour again? Didn't matter. People know there is sleaze in politics, they know there's corruption, happens in every party. Labour right now, just concentrate on themselves. The Tories will always screw up. There's so many people that I know. I'm so glad I'm in sync with some Labour activists here. Just give them the rope. It's the Tories, let them hang themselves on it. Then you get into a fight and you get into the into a point where you're thinking, yes, we can outmaneuver them. They're not stupid. They're throwing this nonsense about, and there was that story, remember that whole headline about, oh, well, Johnson apparently said, let the bodies pile up. You can even back up that statement. No video evidence, no audio evidence, no text, nothing. And you thought maybe there's an opportunity to use it. All these people are tweeting out the usual stuff, the same usual suspects on Twitter, the same social media activists, the same usual MPs of the Corbyn wing of the party, kept retweeting this stuff saying, oh, look what he said. You know, look at all these people, he hates your grandma, hates. None of that worked. Because people either are waiting for, I like to hear, actual evidence of this. You can't just go to a newspaper and say, by the way, he said this. Okay, let's say he did say it. There is something called evidence. Because remember, if someone had said Gordon Brown said in the car that he called that woman a bigoted woman and there was no evidence, people never believed it. But that actually literally caught on audio. And it was his own words. He had to go over an apology. The damage had already been done. You want to beat the Tories? Go back to old-fashioned values. Go back to the family. Go to the idea of the community. Education, morals, values, it'll work. You'll annihilate the Tories on that alone. Housing crisis, they've done nothing about it. And what are you doing about it, Labour? Nothing as well. Crime level in areas, people keep blaming Sadiq Khan for it. Has nothing to do with Sadiq Khan. A lot of these areas in London, I'm close by to some of them, fatherless homes, break down the family unit. And here we've got Black Lives Matter saying abolish the nuclear family, which is bizarre if you think about it. We've got kids taken out of homes, put into safe houses. Boys taken out of a single mother's household, or a flat for that matter, put into a safe house with other men. You work it out. But no one wants to come out and actually say it. Just say it like it is. Pandering doesn't work. The same mushy politics doesn't work. Even though Starmer was annihilating Johnson the PMQs, who's watching the PMQs? I don't think many of you are. You're more concerned about your wallet. You're more concerned about the area you live in. You're more concerned about your kids and more concerned about this virus. There we are. That's all I can say for now, and I've changed the title of this channel. It's not to make it all about Labour Party, but Labour first for the nation state. Let's make that happen. Trouble is, half the party didn't really believe in that. That's going to take some convincing. My job and my job of many people in the party, activists as well, party members, so including me, if we want to try and win, we've got to try and make a better case. We've pinpointed the errors. We need to offer a better alternative. What Labour need to do is actually kind of similar what the Tories had to do, not go the same direction. Tories had to revisit and see, well, I mean, we got annihilated by Tony Blair on a number of occasions, twice, right? So we kind of need to look back and say what's been going on for the last 10 years. We've not been in power a lot, quite a while. We just lost a lot of local elections, council seats. The world has changed significantly from that point. We lost power in 2010. You can't go back to Plan A, which was Tony Blair. Even though I would argue that he would actually probably beat Johnson election. Not hands down, but I reckon he could beat him. We need to go post that era, post Corbyn era, and just move on with it, and stick with Keir Starmer, and see what we can do to get him to make a better case out there. Some people have already made their minds up about whether we're going to vote for him or not, so we can't do anything about that. Just respect their wishes, but talk to them, speak to these voters, and let them know we do care about them. But that's one thing you can do. There are so many things we need to do. The population number is quite big now. The cities are getting too many people around here. 10 years from now, most politicians are not going to care about what's happening in London and other cities. They're not. They enrich themselves and they play one against the other. Get them to tell truths about the housing crisis. Get them to tell truths about employment. Get them to tell truths about skilled trades. Get them to tell truths about the education system where kids are, particularly boys, not doing very well at school. They're not. We need to concentrate on that. These are the future of our country. And all I hear is stories about a 15-year-old kid getting stabbed and shot. A 15-year-old kid getting involved in drugs. A 12-year-old being charged with murder. Enough. Well, this is because of institutional racism. That's not going to solve the problem. If you identify a problem, then you must try and solve it. So when you talk about institutional racism, or crime, or poor education, or lack of housing, you have to make a case and argue and say, there's a problem. Here's the proof, and this is what we're going to try and solve it. Labour, particularly, not just the Tories, but Labour as well, the Lib Dems have offered nothing for people. So this is why voters tend to stick with the status quo and not go to other parties, or just no vote at all. And local elections spoke pretty much across the entire country, with the exception to mayor races, so quite clear winners in that. But the turnout was very low. There are one place where they had 24% turnout, less than a quarter. 3/4 didn't vote. So democracy all the time. The fact that they couldn't see what was happening, so I'll wrap up with this. European Union was one example. Who were sending to the European Union? Brexiteers. That's who we were sending. I wonder why Brexit happened. How could it even happen? Because the Remainers, so to speak, were not paying attention enough to the fact that when it came to the European elections, they thought, well, as long as we're in the European Union, we couldn't give a damn who went to the European Union to be elected into the European Parliament. The fact that Nigel Farage kept going back there, you didn't think for 1 second they came to a Brexit vote you might actually lose it? Again, it's like talking to a wall when it comes to the Labour Party. Again, it's still early days, but wake up and work things out. I don't want to hear about, well, we got to do something about Black Lives Matter, or we got to do something about racism, or we got to do something about LGBTQ. We got to do something about this and that. Look at the criteria we have in this country to take care of. Energy. We talk about clean energy all the time. Housing. We have a severe housing crisis and nobody talks about that. Crime. It's not great in London. It's not great in other cities across the country. Education. Well, we need to give alternatives. Not just to give them the basics. Of course they need, science, maths and English. but give them alternative skilled trades. We're lacking in that area. Manufacturing. We don't do much here at all. Despite China doing whatever hell they want in their own country and across the South China Sea, we still rely on them to this day. Don't just say it, spell it out for people. That's the first thing you can do. I look forward to seeing the next manifesto of Labour, but I can tell you right now, I suspect it's going to look quite half-hearted, half-arsed, I should say, with a bit of Corbynism and a bit of Starmerism, if you want to call it that way. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. Anyway, that's enough of the stream, enough of the rant. Maybe next time, by the time I talk Labour, will actually change their tune. I highly doubt it. So I can understand why you vote for Johnson, even though I think you're wrong in voting for Johnson. He's a buffoon. But if you want to vote for Labour, people like me have got to make a better case. Because we're not. We're all failing here. Down here in London, we're not doing too badly. But Britain isn't London. Britain is a large place. It'd be great. I love to get involved in polling if I can. To actually do proper polling and see what people really are saying. And travel other parts of the country, which would have been great to do, of course, not during this pandemic because we're quite restricted. Doesn't mean we can't go, but people need to be approachable as well. It's kind of difficult this time. So post-COVID, I'll see if I can just make a few trips to other places across the country, get to speak to people. Not like town halls and that, because I'm not a popular person, or, public figure, but just be able to talk to people about these problems and see what's happening. There we are. Anyway, enjoy your Sunday. It's quite late now in the UK, and hopefully speak to you soon. I've done no further COVID updates. I just can't be asked COVID anymore. We're post-COVID now. It's now a case of herd immunity and seasonal flu. That's it.